Hey everybody, I'm Corinne Blackstone and welcome to my craft room. I'm so excited to have you here today, and before we get started, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button down below. That's going to make you part of my crafty family here on YouTube, and then you won't miss out on any of the awesome crafty things that we have coming up. Today's video is all about test cuts. I've had several of you reach out about doing test cuts and where should you start when doing test cuts. So I wanted to make a quick tutorial that kind of showed you the way I do them and kind of how I figure out where to start as far as a cut setting. So let's head over to Cricut Design Space and get started. Whatever we would do, we do it just for fun. So let's talk about doing test cuts in Cricut Design Space. It's really important that you do test cuts when you are starting with any new material, or a lot of times after Cricut does an update. I find that the updates do cause a lot of issues with the cut settings, so I do recommend learning how to do test cuts. They're super easy, really very simple, and you can do them really, really quickly. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and open up a shape. I like to use a star because it has those nice points on it, and I feel like it gives you a pretty good idea of how it's going to cut on any sharp edges. So I like to just do my star at about 1 inch, so I just change the width to 1 inch. So this is all you're going to need to do, just get a star. If you want to use a letter, the letter R is a great option as well because the R has some nice sharp edges, and I actually usually like to use a capital R, but it has some nice sharp edges as well as some curves. So it's really up to you, and I usually just leave it on Cricut Sans. It doesn't totally matter. And again, I like to keep it around that 1 inch mark with the height. So we've got about 1 inch there, so that's perfectly fine. I'll go ahead and show them both to you just so you guys can see what that looks like. So now all you'll do is click Make It. Once you've hit Make It, it's going to take you to this screen here, and you'll see we have our star and our R. So all we have to do from here is just click Continue. Now make sure that your machine is turned on so that your Design Space can connect to the machine. We're going to be using the Maker today, but you can do test cuts on any of the Cricut machines. So it's really, really easy to do. And like I said, this is one of those super important things that I do find is really, really helpful. So you'll see here I have a few favorites. These are what I kind of use most of the time. But if you don't see what you're looking for here, you can always click Browse All Materials. Now, if you're using a Cricut Explorer or an Explorer Air 2 that maybe has the dial, I do recommend just turning it to custom and never changing it. There's really no need to really use the dial. The dial actually kind of reduces the amount of choices you have, where this is going to be an endless amount of choices. So I'm going to click Browse All Materials, and I'm just going to show you a couple things. You'll see here that everything is kind of categorized by what they feel it would go under. So we have artboard and cardstock, fabrics, which we have a ton and tons and tons of fabrics, felts and foams, foil, iron-ons, so many things. But if you click right here where it says Material Settings, this is going to give you a lot of information on the different settings within Cricut Design Space. It's going to tell you a couple really important things. So let's just look at the acetate one right here because it's first in line. So you'll see first we have the material name, which in this case is acetate. The second thing we have is our cut pressure, which is set to 319. Then multi-cut, which says 2 times. So what that means is that the machine is actually going to cut your design twice before unloading the mat. And then it'll tell you what kind of blade that it recommends that we use with it. So in this case, the fine point blade. Now, because I'm using the Maker, I do have a lot more options than somebody who has the Explorer, so I have things that will work with the knife blade and the rotary blade. So you can see here we have bamboo fabric. That is a 1041 pressure with just a single cut with the rotary blade. So this really gives us a lot of information. And the reason I want to show you this is that if you're cutting something, let's say that we try the construction paper setting, and we see that it didn't quite work at a pressure of 168, we know that maybe we need to go to a cut setting that has a little bit more pressure. So being that fact that I know that 168 didn't quite work, what I would do is find something maybe in the 175 to 185-ish range. So right here I see I have a craft foam setting. Now, depending on what you're cutting, you're going to want to look at all the different information. So with this one, it does recommend a deep point blade. So that one's probably not a great choice. So you can keep scrolling and see what you can find that may fall into that category. So this is something really important that you'll want to look at from time to time, depending on what you're cutting. Now, let's look at like this one here. Heavy fabrics like denim, 3,200. Wow, that is a lot of pressure with the rotary blade, but that's a really thick fabric. So you're definitely not going to want to start with something like that if you're using paper or vinyl. That's way too high. So you can kind of, like I said, scroll through, and I'm going to show you because we use vinyl all the time. So what I'm going to do is scroll all the way down. They're alphabetical order if you didn't notice that. So they're all alphabetical, so it's pretty easy to find what you're looking for. So right here we have our vinyl setting, and like I said, this is the one that I use really most of the time. And you can see that it's set to 107 pressure. It only cuts once, and it cuts with the fine point blade. But another suggestion that we use a lot is washi sheet when we're cutting really small things. That's only set to 85 with a fine point blade. So you can see there's kind of a bit of a difference when it comes to pressure settings. You can also add your own materials, which I have videos showing you how to do that. And I'm going to link that below because this one's really all about test cuts. But I'll show you guys in that video down below how you can add your own material. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut some Teckwrap vinyl on this. That is a really fun one to do some test cuts on. Teckwrap is a little bit different of a vinyl, so I do recommend when you are starting to use their product, do some test cutting. So we're going to go ahead and test cut this, and let's go ahead and test cut it on our vinyl setting. That's usually where I like to start if I'm using any kind of a vinyl product, because that really gives me a good starting point, whether it's cutting too deep or not deep enough. So it's a great way to kind of start. So if you have a cardstock, start on a light cardstock setting unless you know it's very heavy. Then I would maybe go up to medium or heavy cardstock and just kind of see how the different things cut. So let's go over to the machine and I'm going to show you guys how to load your vinyl and we'll do some test cutting. So we're going to be using some Teckwrap vinyl. This is their rainbow shimmer, and I think it's really pretty. This is just a little bit different than some of the vinyl you might be used to, like Starcraft and Avery. The backing is more of a plastic backing, and this feels much thinner. So again, we've set this to the vinyl setting. So what we're going to do is load it on to our mat and see how it does. Now mine did stick to my mat, so I'm going to go ahead and slide my mat under. This is like my favorite thing that I kind of hack all the time, is I put my mat under my machine and then I lay my vinyl just along the top edge, just leaving about an inch or two exposed so that I'm not having to try to stick this entire 12 by 12 sheet down to the mat all at once. Now what's cool is you can load the mat either way. You can load it with the bottom in first or the top in first. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to go ahead and load this. This is just the fine point blade, again, set to our vinyl settings. So we're going to go ahead and see how this does with a test cut. And the test cut should go really, really quickly, since all it's cutting is just the little star and the R. So let's see how it does with that setting. It is going to move it all the way over to the corner, right where we had it. And again, this goes really quickly. Test cutting really doesn't take a very long time, so you should have no trouble having a test cut done. It just takes a few seconds. I'm going to go ahead and unload. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and leave this right on our mat. And I am going to go ahead and check my cut by just seeing if I can weed up the star. And it comes up beautifully. So then let's check on the letter R here. Also comes up really nice. So another thing that you'll want to check is the back of this. So what I recommend doing is you can use your pin pen and just peel up a little bit. And you just want to see if this cut through the back at all or indented, and it didn't. So the vinyl setting on this is absolutely beautiful. But let's pretend that it didn't work, and I'm going to show you how to do a second test cut so that you can try another setting. Let's say that that test cut didn't work and it wasn't great. What you can do is you're going to want to click edit on your mat. And then what I do is I'm going to move these over, and I'll usually move the second one. And I'll usually move the first one first and then move the second one over, just so you can make sure they're out of the way of your original cut. Go ahead and click done. And then what you'll do is click right here where it says base material set to, and you can choose a different setting. So let's find something that cuts at a less heavy pressure. So we use the vinyl setting. So what I'm going to do is find something that maybe cuts, like, let's try aluminum foil. Now that uses a deep point. So we're going to find something that cuts at a much less setting. So what I'm kind of doing is I'm scrolling through here and I'm looking at what this cut setting here is, because we know that the vinyl cuts really, really at a low setting. So let's try the glitter vinyl setting. I think maybe that one we will give a shot and see how that does. Let's take a look. And like I said, I'm just scrolling down just to double check what vinyl cuts on. So if we go down here, vinyl's at 107. So let's go ahead and do the glitter vinyl setting. I think that's perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and click done. And what I want to do now is browse all materials, and I'm going to search for the word glitter. And I'm just going to hit enter, and we're going to find glitter vinyl. Go ahead and select that, hit done. We're going to go ahead and load the machine again, and I'll show you how that cut setting does. So now we're back to try the second setting, and this is partially why I don't bother unloading my mat, because I know I'm just going to load it again. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in, and then this is the one that we're going to cut on the glitter vinyl setting, which has a lower setting than regular vinyl. So I have a feeling this one isn't going to cut as well, which is okay, because I just wanted to show you how you can go back, change your setting, move your items around, so that you can make sure that you get a really good test cut made out of your vinyl. So we're going to go ahead and let this cut, and then I will go ahead and weed it. So now that it's done, again, I'm just going to unload it from my machine, and we'll go ahead and try to weed this. So we'll start with the star. And like I said, I have a feeling this one is not going to go well because, again, we know that the vinyl setting worked really well. But you can see, like, I can't weed this at all. Like, I'm not being able to get under the edge at all. Oh, boy, that is bad. So it's really not cut well. So you can see here, like, it's lifting this side. It cut, but it didn't cut great. So we ended up with kind of a mess. So let's go ahead and try the R, but I have a feeling that we're going to have a lot of trouble with this one. You can see, I don't know if you guys can see it, but do you see how it's just kind of ripping? Like it's not really letting me lift it. And then we've got this center that really didn't cut at all. And then you can see down here, this didn't even cut. So I'm just going to go ahead and rip that off. And you'll see here, that is why you do test cuts. Had we started with the glitter vinyl, assuming that this was considered glitter vinyl, we would have noticed that it definitely didn't cut thick enough or hard enough, so we would have wanted to bump it up, and I would have gone right to vinyl because that's like a good bump up. So a great place to start is to just think about what kind of product you're using when you are going to check your test cuts. Like I said, I always recommend just kind of trying it out, using something small, a star, an R, something like that. If you are working with a brand new material, this is a must so that you don't waste a ton of material. If I had made a really large decal out of this and tried cutting it on the glitter vinyl, I would have ruined a big part of this vinyl. Here, I just ruined a little bit of an inch of it, and it's not a big deal because we can just kind of work around that when we go to cut our next design. If you guys have any questions, please let me know in those comments down below. And also let me know what your favorite kind of vinyl is, like your favorite color, your favorite finish. Do you like rainbow? Do you like lots of colors? Let me know. I would love to check out some of the things that you guys love. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Make sure to subscribe here and make sure to check out my Facebook group. You can join down below. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and as always, happy crafting!